Zelensky is getting this $2 billion infusion in new military aid from Europe. Any question, though, for you? He needs Trump. He needs the U.S. He needs to get this back on track.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I think that the European allies are starting to realize that if Donald Trump's isolationist approach is you're on your own, and things like Elon Musk is advocating for, like pulling out of the UN, pulling out of NATO, it is in the European Union's best interest to try to support Ukraine as much as possible, because I think they all realize if you don't hold this line, if you allow sovereign territory to be taken, by someone like Putin, what's to stop him going elsewhere, especially if the U.S. is basically taking out a billboard saying, we don't have your back anymore. I think this is a moment right now where a power vacuum is being created that other countries in Europe could potentially fill. And ultimately, it's kind of like they say in The Godfather, your enemies get stronger on the things that you leave behind. The U.S. abandoning its role in this way could have huge consequences, but it could strengthen certain European nations.
I mean, Matt, what's your take? Can Zelensky do this without Trump?
Absolutely not, Natasha. In fact, that's the biggest joke in all of this. Even Keir Starmer, the part that you just played before this, the European, by the way, $2 billion in loans, can't do this without the U.S. The U.S. public does not support, one, ever putting U.S. troops on the ground in Ukraine, which a security guarantee would likely require. Two, making Ukraine a member of NATO, which would carry with it an Article 5 commitment, which would mean that U.S. troops would be on the ground in Ukraine. The best thing that Vladimir Zelensky can do is suck it up. He doesn't have to apologize, come back and sign the deal, tie America to Ukraine economically, and then let the British and the French step up with the peacekeeping force, but not a member of NATO, so that the Article 5 commitment doesn't kick in. Let them step up to the table that they have been not willing to do so far. So the U.S. isn't abandoning anything. All Trump is saying is that flowing $200 billion to Ukraine during the Biden administration with no exit strategy. And by the way, look at the maps. Ukraine is still losing territory. They're never going to get back what they lost in 2014, and they're never going to get back what they lost in 2022. So either we can keep fighting it out and Ukrainian men and women can keep on dying, or, as Donald Trump has suggested and completely changed the conversation, they're now talking about peace in Ukraine.
Hey, Kurt, let's bring you back in here. I mean, especially on the topic of some Republicans floating that Zelensky should step down following the White House fight. Your thoughts on that idea? What message would that send to Russia?
That these Republicans are doing Vladimir Putin's bidding for him. This is not for members of the United States Congress to be saying. And again, I can't help but notice that the reason why they think that Zelensky should step aside, they didn't like that he didn't wear a suit. They didn't like that he wasn't respectful enough. They didn't express enough gratitude. Like, I'm sorry, these same Republicans have not had a single problem with all the things that Donald Trump has done that are disrespectful, where he says openly horrible things all the time, and they rubber stamp that, condone it, cheer it on, egg it on, and they're going to be mad at Zelensky because he didn't show up in a suit, because he didn't kiss Donald Trump and J.D. Vance's you-know-what. Like, give me a break. What a bunch of self-righteous pieces of garbage.
Matt, I see you shaking your head. I have to give you the floor.
What, Kurt? That's just a joke. A foreign leader does not come into the Oval Office and disrespect the United States in front of the news media under any circumstance.
Every day.
You do it in private. You don't do it in public. He lost. He failed in the one thing he had to do.
Shut up. You're not the president.
The one thing he had to do, he failed. He failed. He failed flat out. And he went home with his tail between his legs.
Oh, I think he didn't go home with his tail between his legs. I think he was standing proud, and we have seen a number of nations rally behind him publicly with a tremendous amount of support.
You need to redo your definition.
I think proud is standing up to a country that says we're going to try to take you over, and despite everyone saying that this war wouldn't last that long, that Zelensky would be a dead man walking, 3 years later, he's still standing tall. I'm damn proud of him.
Only because of American weapons. That's it.
Meanwhile, the guy in the Oval Office, when duty came to call, he had, what was it, bone spurs that kept him out of Vietnam? Come on, let's not compare the two.
And that's relevant to this conversation.
Gentlemen, we are out of time.
Really good.
Matt Klink, Kurt Bardella, lively conversation. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.